Thank you for joining us today. I'm Doug Miles along with Gary Schuster, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's been going on the last year. The political scene, not only around the country, but here in Florida as well. And Gary, thanks for being with us today. Good to see you.
Oh, good to see you. Thanks.
We used to do a lot of this on radio for the last couple of years.
Sure
we
did.
do a bit on television now.
Yep,
So.
yep. Be fun to do.
Let's first of all, for those of you that have not been with us before, give a little overview of your background. Of course, Detroit News, Washington Bureau Chief, and CBS News. You were the White House correspondent for several years as well. So you've always been kind of a political junkie as well, haven't you?
Right, I have, and it's been one of those things where I've sort of been around it for a long time, both as a newspaper reporter and as a broadcaster for CBS. But in addition to that, I've always had that interest in it, and have followed it even to this day, and still have a lot of friends who are both politicians and reporters, and keep in touch with them, and sort of keep up to speed on what things are moving and what's making them move.
This last election, of course, for the president, probably the most interesting since 1968 as far as both parties are concerned, right? Would you say it kind of surpassed that in the way it was covered? Or
this was an exceptional election, I think. It was one of those things that you had a confluence of interest levels. You had both the Republican and Democratic Party wide open. Incumbent president wasn't going to speak, and neither was the vice president. You had the economic problems that the nation was suffering. You had the race issue that was involved that people thought could be a turning point with Obama's presence in the race and his eventual winning the Democratic nomination. And so you had all those things, as well as a lot of special local elections. You had the Congress decided whether to try to decide whether we're going to be fully Democratic. As a matter of fact, they just passed this week the election of the senator in Georgia, Saxby Chandler, keeps it from being filibuster-proof, the runoff there. So that, I mean, it's still going on. You have one Senate race left in Minnesota that won't determine now whether the Senate will be filibuster-proof, but nonetheless, they're still in it, and I think there's even another House race still open that's being
Al Franken and Norm Coleman in Minnesota.
Well, that's the Senate race, but I think there are a couple of House races that are still open.
And Alaska as well could be up for grabs, right?
Well, Stevens is out, so the governor of Anchorage is in as the Senate nominee and the senator-elect, but there's so much going on. There was so much going on in this race on a number of fronts. Locally, we had the Jennings Buchanan race that was sort of back and forth and as contentious as it was 2 years ago. And so a number of different factors made this race different than any that have been in the recent past.
Locally, Florida went Democratic in this presidential election.
It did, first time.
Which I think was a surprise to a lot of people. Right?
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. Yeah, the state traditionally goes Republican, but not this year. North Carolina the same. I mean, there were a number of states that Arizona, McCain's own state.
Yeah, didn't carry his own state.
So I mean, when you can't carry your own state, even Walter Mondale carried his own state against Reagan. It was the only state that he carried. Yeah. But he carried that state, and McCain couldn't do it.
Of course, they all made trips through our particular area right here, Sarasota.
Right.
Obama came here the last week of the campaign.
And McCain was here in Sarasota over at
Robarts. And Sarah Palin up the Tampa area, not quite Sarasota. And Joe Biden came through Sarasota.
Right. In this area, they were, Sarasota is the Republican sort of groundswell area here, and it's one of those places that. If you're going to try and hold on, if you're a Republican, you've got to show up here. McCain showed up, but I think it hurt him because he went to Robarts, and the arena only held 3,000 people. They had more people outside than they had inside, and I don't know if that boded well for him not to have a good planning to have an arena where you get everybody in. But you got to stop here. You got to ring Sarasota's doorbell.
You mentioned that brief story there. That seemed to kind of be the overview of his whole campaign. Not quite organized.
It was absolutely. And he was just going around on the bus. His organizers didn't do it right for him. He got here. He went in the back door. He thought the stadium was. He never saw the people out in front until he saw the news show later. So,
let's talk a little bit about, before we get a little more specific, I know the Mel Martinez situation, we'll get into that quickly, because he's going to be leaving his Senate seat in a couple of years, but we mentioned at the top of the segment here, it seems like the country's shifting to the left now, at least politically, with Obama coming in, the Senate and the House going to be predominantly Democratic, won't be a majority, filibuster-proof majority, but a majority on both houses. Is that something that is unusual? Can you tell what caused that?
well, I think when you look at it, I think Obama realizes that he won voters' hearts who he wouldn't normally win because of the circumstances. I don't know that means that they're going to come back again in 4 years if he doesn't do a good job and just pick up whoever the Democratic nominee might be because the country has moved to the left. I think there was a move to the left, but he still has to govern from the right center, because that's still where this country is. All the exit polls showed it. He still has to govern from that right center.
Right.
And he will do that, probably much to the dismay of some of his liberal supporters. He won't have, that breadth that you would think he'd have on the left-hand side because of the way this vote turned out. It's because people were upset about the economy, the war, their paychecks, unemployment. It's a number of things, and I think this was a tough time for any Republican following George Bush's performance in office and being just a Republican. The nation wanted to change. We saw it. We saw it happen before on the other way when Democrats were in control and of the Congress and the presidency.
After Jimmy Carter.
Right, Reagan beat him in '80.
Yeah.
So I mean, the nation, luckily for all of us, swings back and forth, and over the course of 4 to 8 years, the party that's in control runs afoul of the voting public because they get power crazy. They get themselves locked in a position where they do things that aren't apropos and are illegal. So you have things that make this turn, which is good. So I think in this case, my feeling is that yes, there was a swing to the left, but only sort of like a yield sign. It was like coming to an intersection and seeing yield, traffic. But in the end, I think Obama's going to have to govern from the center right to get done what he wants to get done. Even though Congress has Democratic control, the voting public is still out there watching him, and traditionally it's a little more conservative than it is liberal.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he handles some of the people in Congress that are Nancy Pelosi, of course, Barney Frank, who are right left, and have leadership positions.
Yep. No, it's going to be a tightrope for him to walk.
To see how he handles that, because the way he campaigned and his previous history as a congressman in Illinois and as a senator has been that he's the most liberal. At least that's
right.
The polls have shown that he's been the most liberal. He'll have to come to the center.
Sure, absolutely.
Second term,
and he knows that.
Yeah. How about his cabinet choices? Surprising to you, or?
Yeah, well, I think I think they've been received very well by both official Washington and the public as well. I think that his choices. It surprised me that he took Hillary Clinton.
Did it really? Yeah.
Yeah, it surprised me that he gave Hillary that job as the Secretary of State. He could have given it to Jim Jones. He could have given it to Colin Powell. He could have given it to a number of people, or offered it to a number of people. I think he should get credit for that, for bringing in his so-called opposition, his enemies, the people who ran against him for the nomination, Bill Richardson at Commerce and Hillary. But I think in the end, the cabinet choices are good, but you got to see how they handle it.